Closing arguments begin in the Ryan Widmer murder trial. There's a new development. For the first time, the prosecution wants the jury to consider a lesser charge. 9 News reporter Valerie Miller's live in Lebanon with details of this request. Valerie?
Well, Tanya, the prosecution this morning filed that request to Judge Neil Bronson, asking him to consider the lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter in his instructions to the jury for its deliberations. Now, the trial for trial watchers was in high demand today. There was an overflow crowd of people wanting to get into the courtroom, but there were no seats available. The prosecution gets the first and last word in closing arguments. Assistant Prosecutor Travis View told the jurors to use their common sense. Defense attorney Jay Clark said this is an extraordinary case with ordinary people. The testimony of Jennifer Crew is extremely important for the prosecution's case.
You don't have to like Jennifer Crew. You don't have to invite her home for dinner. You don't have to think that she's a wonderful person to believe her, to understand her, and to understand that the defendant's relationship with her was beyond what he had with other people.
It's a case where an assumption, a mistaken belief, a misunderstanding by one of the initial officers on the scene got us all on the road to where we are today. Because now they've jumped to a conclusion and they have to try to make these fit.
Sarah Widmer's mom was in court. She listened as the prosecution played the 911 call made by Ryan. Judge Bronson will have to make a ruling on the request, and it must come before the jury begins its deliberations. The court right now is on a quick break and will allow the prosecution to have its final say after that break. I talked with attorney Mark Crumbine, who's been following the case, and he mentioned about the possibility of that involuntary manslaughter option coming to the jury. He said sometimes prosecution does that if they don't think their case is strong enough and they don't have a guaranteed conviction. Now, this certainly gives the jury the opportunity to consider this, and the other two juries from the first two trials never had this option. Tanya?
It'll be interesting to see what happens. Valerie Miller live for us today in Lebanon. Thank you. We do